I'm Bear. I'm here with Dan. We're your hosts, and you are watching The Hype Mind, and you are hyped because you should be. That's what we're here to do, and we're talking about Donald Trump because who the heck is he, and why the frick is there so much controversy over this dude? Oh, man, what a dude.
Let's begin.
Yeah, what do you want to say about this? What do you want to say about this guy who people keep voting for?
What do I want to say about this guy that people keep voting
It's
for?
okay, I know what I want to
Um,
say.
I want to say that, um, yeah, dude, where do I freaking start? That's the first thing. I mean, it's not much I have to say about him individually. It's about what I've seen, the reactions, and I guess, how polarizing he has been into where, you know, I mean,
Right.
maybe it's
Everybody either hates him or loves him.
Yeah, exactly. And there could be a good thing to that, you know. It's like um you if you're not polarizing, you might not be doing anything. You might not be really making any changes. Um and that's just something to consider. But also, I, man, I might have to go back to some events. It's just kind of been, I guess, like weird to see how um a guy that, I never even thought as like evil or anything in particularly. Like, people deemed as someone who's absolutely like an evil, bad person who deserves death, and stuff like that. I mean, I could tell you, especially when there was especially when they had those the assassination attempts. Um, it wasn't the idea that he almost got shot and killed. It was the idea that people didn't think enough to realize that he's a regular man. He has a family. He's a father. He's a grandfather. And how
Is he a grandfather?
yeah, he is. Yeah.
Didn't
How
know.
bad, like, or the situation that his whole family would go through, his friends would go through if he really got assassinated. Um, when it just seemed like a lot of people just didn't think of caring in that way or just thinking of that. But whole disregarding the fact that, he's a human person too. No matter um how bad you think he is, like he has a family, like there's people that do love him, and obviously you can see this, like especially love him politically too. But there's people that do, like, and I'm not talking about just they love him because he's, doing stuff that other people agree with, but like he has, just like anybody, he has family and friends. And yeah, and that kind of struck me as um not very
You're kind of
caring.
saying, yeah, yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Well, it sounds like you're kind of saying, like, here's this dude who was just a regular celebrity, and most people don't have anything against celebrities other than they wish they were a celebrity and had that kind of money. But I mean, I see this guy who's, you know, a loose cannon, kind of like that's what it looks like, right? He's got when he speaks, you're like, what are you saying? Some of his actions look crazy. He promises really big things. Um, and most people in that position who promise really big things don't deliver them. He's over here threatening to go to war with Greenland to take it over, or that's what the media puts out at any rate. And he's very much a go-getter in an aggressive sense of just very motivated, um, motivated to the point where you actually think he will do it. And he seems to be very well connected with other people of big political power, which honestly, that's your job to be as a president, but that is definitely uncomfortable because you're like, why does he have these connections? Like, what if he's planning a world invasion and taking over the whole world or something? And I don't know. Anytime you're around someone who's like a loose cannon, you're like, what are they gonna do next? how's this going to impact me? You're always in this place of like insecurity where you're wondering, how do I need to prepare for the future, right? Your brain is doing that. Your brain is looking for its survival tactic. It's playing survival of the fittest, and it's trying to be the fittest, and it's trying to engage and judge everything that's going on outside of you. And one of the things your brain is deeming as the most important to pay attention to is someone like Trump, where you just don't know what he's going to do next, but it's going to have an impact on your life, or you believe it's going to have an impact on your life. So I get that. I get everybody's really worried about this. I've heard people who like Trump. I've heard people who don't like Trump. Worried about, hopeful for the economy, worried about the economy. Um, Glad that he says what's on his mind and speaks the truth, because at least you know what's going through his head. But also saying that, you know, here's this dude who just spits off things that are stupid sometimes, like that shouldn't even be coming out of someone's mouth, let alone a president's mouth. And yeah, I can. It's nice to be able to say I can empathize with the other side on this, and kind of see where they're coming from, because it really it comes down to your values. But what I've come to learn is most people don't know what their values are, right? I don't even know what all mine are sometimes. Sometimes I'm going down the road and I realize I actually value this and I didn't even know it, right? So a lot of times our values are coming from a place of subconscious, and we're valuing lower things than we really would desire to be putting first and foremost in our life. Um, but that being said, as humans, we tend to value stuff like security, probably being the biggest, um, love, um, our safety, which falls under security, is stuff like that. And so, of course, your brain is like freaking out over stuff like this, because it's really hard to believe you're safe and secure in a situation like this. But I can only speak from my own values, and I value people who tell the truth. I value people who are motivated. I value people who desire to be connected and to take the time to communicate in order to um, like best resolve issues, um, even discuss issues to begin with rather than avoid them, and to try to find peaceful conflicts in those issues. And that's where I'm coming from when I do something like vote for Trump, is because here's someone who's motivated to have the conversation and to say, here's my boundary, right? Here's my boundary. You're not allowed to cross it, right? Because my boundary represents the entire United States, right?
Mhm.
You're not allowed to walk all over us. You're not allowed to take our money and not give back. You're not allowed to come into our country without following the rules, and without making sure you're going to follow the rules after you come into our country. You're not allowed to sit here and threaten war on other countries and our country, um, because that's just not proactive to society at all, anywhere. Um, and he goes and does it, right? So it's like, yeah, it is aggressive, right? It is aggressive, but the fact that he tells the truth and then goes and does it and actually gets it done, or gets it done as best as he can, is what I love. And we could go on all day about stuff like how everybody used to be his best friend until he became a president. All the celebrities used to be his best friend until he became a celebrity, or how everybody loved all these people like Trump or Musk or whoever until they became political, and then now they hate them. But I don't think that's the best way to look at this. I think it really does come down to, what do you
Well, no, no,
value
I
and
mean,
what values are
yeah,
playing
what you
in.
talked about is amazing. I mean, it's like you got to look at your values first and foremost. Because, come on, guys, it's obvious that everybody, their emotions sneak in and their feelings sneak in. And it's like, that's not going to help you, make rational decisions for the future and for life if you let that overtake, what you truly want to value. And like Andrew's talking about, it's like, what we're just talking about right now. You looked at your values and you looked at who you value in a person rather than just how you feel. And I feel like that's a lot of, you know, that's a lot of how people make decisions nowadays is what do my feelings say rather than what do I feel or what do I think is important, right? Regardless of my feelings. And so
Well, and
my emotions. And another thing I want to mention too is that I mean, you got to think about like, yeah, I know you talk about security, but like there's a couple ways to think about having security. It's like one way to react to, wanting to have security is just to be fearful and to not do anything and to kind of like hide away. And the other
right,
way,
to run, to
yeah, to
avoid.
run. And the other way is to actually like fight, like willing to fight for your insecurity. And I think about I, the maybe I think it was Ben Franklin. We were just talking about this before, but it was Ben Franklin saying that, you're gonna have to, if you want freedom, you're gonna have to be willing to give up
Thomas Jefferson.
comfort, or that was Thomas Jefferson.
I think so.
And
Yeah. It's either freedom or security. You can't have both. You have one or the other. Which
right, and
we'll
you don't
talk
even
about
have
that.
security in that sense. It's like um in that way. Was it, yeah, something like that. So um
Well, long term versus short term, right? Here's the thing is you we all, have this long term versus short term thing playing out. And I would argue this is kind of a brain versus heart battle, right? Because your brain always wants the short term result, but your heart, which knows what's best for you, wants the long term result, right? So in the moment, you're like, I don't want, you know, in the moment you're like, I want to eat pizza, right? Because I need to survive, and I'm craving food, and I'm hungry, and there's pizza, and pizza tastes good, right? But the long term thing is I need to eat, but I need to eat something good so I live longer, or I need to wait so I can get better food in the future than something that really has absolutely no nutritional benefit to me. So the same thing plays out with your security. A lot of times our brain are saying, I want to feel secure right now. I want to be secure right now. You know, like I don't want this guy as my president. I want to be secure right now. But the reality is, what you really want is to experience security in the future, for yourself down the road, for your family, for your friends. Um, and that looks like trusting someone who does seem crazy sometimes, or might be seem irrational to you sometimes, but trusting them to correct problems that have been gradually getting worse for years, so
mhm.
that in the future we have greater security. It's like it always cracks me up the number of people, scholars, who will say Trump should have had a Nobel Peace Prize for the wars he stopped and the wars he prevented, during his first election. Um, it's like that's long term security. That's something other presidents haven't really done a very good job of accomplishing. Um, you give up the short term security of I don't want him at all to accept the long term security of I'm going to trust him to fix the problems that he says he's going to fix, because I've already seen what he did in the first 4 years.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like conversion stories. It's like I can't convince you to like someone. But the number of people who, after letting go and trusting and kind of giving up their emotional reaction to it, and letting go of their brains, you know, processing system there, because your brain is built on your beliefs, and a lot of times your beliefs are crap. Um, when you choose to do that, you tend to see the other side. I'm always inspired by like religious conversion stories, because I'm like, what? This is how they came to religion? That's wild. It's like listening to people like Vance talk, JD Vance. He's like, I didn't like Trump 10 years ago. I didn't like Trump when he was running for president the first time. Now I'm on board with what he's doing. I think he's being honest. And it's like you kind of have to be self-aware in these situations. Um, so it is a battle for security always, but like, and I can give you a personal example. I go through the sacrifice of security now because I have to listen to people, you know, get pissed off and tell me to go screw myself for voting for Trump for the long-term security of tomorrow and a year out when he's establishing policies that help our economy, right? Even though people would be happy to, we that's a different subject. You can argue that maybe his policies won't, whatever. But um, yeah, it really does come down to that sense of security, the values that you're allowing to take control of you now, the feelings like Daniel was saying that are um, kind of dictating your choices, your beliefs, your whole environment, and yeah, it's crazy, but
Yeah.
you have
I
to be
mean,
aware of this stuff.
yeah, I mean, it's like I just gotta reiterate the feelings things. It's like you're asking someone to do a job, right? And you want them to be effective. You're looking for an effective person. I mean, I think it's very important, especially with the idea of war. It's like, well, you want someone to be you need someone to be a warrior and very confident in those types of situations where you're negotiating war, which is a devastating event and someone to advocate for you. And so it's like look at the values again and how it fits the position. It's like, do I want someone who's confident and you know, willing to put up a fight? Or do I value the person who's, seeking, I guess, who's willing to give up what they believe in order to seek security?
That's and this is where the values really play such a big role, is because you can look at each individual thing and you can say, to what degree do I value that, and to what degree do they look like they value it, right? Because if you wanted to talk about war, I would rather have um, who's the CEO of Facebook?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. I would rather have Mark Zuckerberg as a president if it came to terms of discussing war than Kamala Harris, because at least I know he does combat and understands the idea, right? Like you have to, if you really want to get that specific, right? There's I would rather have someone who actually knows what danger and and combat like looks like than someone who doesn't, right? So if war is important to you and you want to make sure we have peace, you need to make sure you have someone who's capable and fearless. And it's like sometimes you don't feel like you have a lot of options, but when you start to ask yourself, what do I value and what do they value in terms of all these things, it's like I certainly wouldn't pick someone like Kamala to lead a war or to discuss war in a conversation. um, right? That's personal, um, but in any of your values, right? Knowing what you value. What do I value? I value a leader who isn't afraid to communicate, to tell the truth, to talk with other leaders first and foremost before they allow bad things to happen. Um, when it comes to war, I value this. When it comes to money, I value this. When it comes to family, I value this. And then looking at their policies, but even more so looking at their past actions, and the best place to start is your own values, right? What do I value in terms of all these things? Don't let my subconscious values run my show. But then it's good to look at their values and say, what does it look like they value based on what I've seen them do in their life? And it's like with someone like Trump, I can see he values money, right? Like he he comes in on all these projects under budget. Wow, what a win. What a great win for our country with a crappy economy half the time. Like I want someone who comes in under budget on everything. Um, so it doesn't matter what you want to talk about in relation to that. Look at all the different things you can value and look at what they've exemplified with those things in the past. So
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, I think money is a good example because it's like it's a way of measuring things. It's like, how much does this cost versus, this expense versus the reward. It's like, you have to think that about that with everything. It's like, is this worth pursuing? Is this worth um, changing, right? Is that are we going to get more than we spend? And so I think in that terms it just becomes purely like per, 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 ugh, purely logical. But no, when we were talking about war, um, and how you mentioned Mark Zuckerberg and how, you know, because he does combat, you'd rather have him be in a position to negotiate war. I was just thinking about what Mike Tyson says about, everybody has planned until they get punched in the face. Like, who at least can, take a punch and be able to,
Right. Stand up at least.
yeah, exactly, and stand up and still think straight, and and be able to think of a rational way to react. And it's like, and it's not only physically, but it's also like, emotionally. You know, what's actually, I guess, impressive is how Trump has gotten all this heat, but in a way, he seems unfazed. And
I don't think you can be phased by it. I don't think it serves you to be.
no, absolutely not.
I
Absolutely not.
mean,
But I mean, I could think of people that it would disturb tremendously.
right.
But that's in a way you could see that as a quality and a value right there. Someone who is able to stick to their guns no matter what. Stick to their guns even though
Right. Which is something you don't see a lot with other politicians.
right, exactly.
They're
Yep.
all over the road with their policies. First they think one thing, and then 5 years later they're saying the exact opposite just to get votes. Um, and Elon Musk is a good example. Now people don't like Elon because he's being included in part of Trump's what do you call it, board, I guess, right? Who better? Who knows money better than Elon Musk, right? He is the wealthiest person in the world. He has probably millions of employees, none of whom I've heard complain anywhere on the internet, right? He promotes free, like why would you not want Elon Musk in charge of money? The guy clearly knows how to use money. Yeah, maybe he has had multiple wives or something, like, okay, but that's related to family. That has nothing to do with his ability to make money, which is clearly great. So it's just silly stuff like that. But
Well, I'd rather look at this instead about someone like Elon Musk is where he basically sacrificed um he was willing to sacrifice the things he cared about, right? Or being liked by other people in order to do what he thought was right. And like,
yeah.
that's something to be admired right there. And that's something, I mean, I guess that's a way to measure your strength as well. Is like, are you willing to give up comforts to
Well,
do?
and a lot of people never understand that. I mean, I can't understand that to the
I
degree
mean,
he's done
in a way,
it.
who knows how much of a sacrifice that was for him? We could see that as a sacrifice because, like, I mean, most people wouldn't want to lose their companies in that. Like, most people wouldn't want to lose um their they wouldn't want to lose like maybe half the country, or would
Right.
definitely
Support of others.
want to lose friends. And obviously before um doing what he did and supporting Trump, like it was pretty obvious that you would lose friends.
Right.
So,
Well, but even doing something like building electric cars, everybody said it's silly, it won't make money. He took the risk, right? And look, he's doing pretty good. I mean, there's electric cars all over the place, and most of them are Teslas, and the best electric car on the road is a Tesla. Um, I've driven in a couple rental electric cars that weren't Teslas, and I was like, this is garbage. This is so bad. But anyway, Trump. Um, yeah, I mean, he is an aggressive person. He does speak his mind. His mind comes out very crude. He has a history, like everybody does, including all the past people we've elected, and including yourself. Um, he's pretty funny, to be honest. I remember Joe Rogan saying that. I was like, it's pretty true. He does have a sense of humor. It is kind of brutal sometimes, but you know what? It's politics. It's like they're all being brutal behind the scenes. Um, but it's what's interesting to look at is the fact that the media is clearly against him. It's been proven that they've shared dishonest facts. Social media is against him. He's been kicked off multiple platforms at different times. Um, you know, and so people see the side of the coin that says, well, he doesn't deserve to be there, right? But like you were saying, he's still a human being with a family, who has a heart, who has a brain, etc. Um, but the fact that none of these other presidents have been slandered like this or kicked off social media. I mean, nobody kicked Bill Clinton off social media for getting or who was it, Clinton? I think it was Clinton, right? For getting a little bit of top behind the Oval Office desk there. It's like when other presidents did things bad, you didn't kick them off and refuse to talk about them, refuse to let them have a voice. No, right? So, um, my point here is just that the evil it makes its strongest attack on those who are good and have pure intentions, and it is very evident that there is a lot of people fighting to destroy him with dishonesty. You know, um, when we've had Democrat parties, there have been plenty of support in passing stuff, but as Trump as a president, you've seen the Democrats just outright refuse to work with him, and that doesn't put the American people first. And so it's it is a little sad that people don't see that for what it is, because it is quite obvious that there's a great deal of people trying to prevent Trump from having a voice and from taking necessary actions to help people. But yeah, he I think it comes down to the values thing.
Yeah,
I value the fact that he's an aggressive go-getter who wants to bring money into the United States, who wants to bring jobs back, who wants to stop all this um, globalism. Because globalism is important in the sense of being connected, but not important in the sense of helping our country. You know,
yeah. All right, great ending.
yeah,
On the values, what you value.
that's it.
They all
Look to the
together.
values. What's important to you, and what appears to be important to them through a clear lens, not a biased lens.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right, guys.
if you voted for anybody but Trump, subscribe. If you voted for Trump, subscribe. And subscribe if you didn't vote at all, because we'd like you to.
And that includes everybody.
Yes.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Done.